It's not though.
Oh, I can't wait for Top Gun Maverick to come out.
But just the
Yeah.
cinema as well. I want to go to the
Yes,
cinema.
next month. Next month. Hopefully everything goes accordingly.
I
And
think it
next
will.
month.
I think it will. I think
Yeah.
we'll be all
Well.
right. On
Yeah. I hope
track.
so. Yeah.
Has it changed your life at all now that everything's opened up?
No. It's like I'm
No.
just I'm one of those people. I'm not like I lag behind a little bit. I'm like, hey, everybody, you just go do your thing for a bit,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I'll when everybody's figured out how to kind of deal with being open again,
Mm.
um, then yeah, then it's like yeah, it's fine. But yeah, no, it's not gonna. I don't. What's gonna change? Yeah, you just be able to like freely see people again, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and actually
Absolutely.
hang out. That's gonna be huge. It'll be great to get social again like that.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
but otherwise, I mean, how how I live my life is just I'm pretty. Yeah, I guess I'm pretty just good at pretty good at just getting on with things. What
Mm.
about what about you?
It, wa- the thing that's vastly changed for me is that I've had some in-person sessions this week.
Cool.
Which has been great. It's almost been a bit like normal, but I've decided to do it quite slowly and carefully, um, purely because it's quite a big jump from going to online. I don't know if you find this, but I think I've said it before, but online I find almost easier from an energetic point. I don't get as tired, it's not as full on. So I
Mm,
wanted to be really careful with that transition to doing in person sessions because it is someone in your space. I have quite a small space. Um, and everyone, it was really interesting. Like everyone came in and they just wanted to talk. And so they were doing the movements and talking. And I was
yeah,
like, I'm trying to, just trying to,
yeah. yeah.
it
Just
was
shut up. Just shut up for a second. Let me just correct this form for you.
ridiculous. Yeah. But what was really nice is that I could do the palpation and I could feel and I could move people and that for me was really nice. So yeah, and it's just gone a bit mental in terms of inquiries as well. I've had a lot of one-to-one inquiries over the last week, which I think
Great.
shows that everyone's just really keen to get back and get on. So
Mm.
yeah, it has changed quite massively for me. And today, um, I walk my dog in many, many fields and woodland. And one of the fields had a huge car boot sale on. So there were just people milling everywhere. And it was a very
Yeah.
surreal thing to see after about 4 months of no one, like not a soul in this woodland, in these fields. And then there was just like
Mm.
hundreds of people milling about. And
Yeah.
it was, yeah. And that was almost like this is normality coming back. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I've
It's a
noticed it
good.
quite vastly this week.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good reminder because it's easy to get stuck in your habits, right?
Yeah.
Is well, it's like as much as nobody wants this, like coming out of it, there'll be a bit of apprehension as well.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's good to see that. It's good to see. Yeah, it's like it's really interesting to know where like what it does for your soul. And it's just to see other
Mm.
people,
It
and
is really
even if you
nice.
don't, yeah, even if you don't know them, you're just like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this is cool. So I tell you
Yeah.
one thing I'm not looking forward to though, and I've already noticed it, is fucking drunk people walking outside my street,
Oh, I bet
outside
you
my
get
window.
quite a lot of that, don't you? See, I don't,
It's
I live
just
at a dead end road, so I don't get
yeah,
any of that, but I can imagine where you are.
yeah,
Has that already
yeah,
started to
because
happen?
yeah, it's already started to happen. So it's like late at night, right? So
Yeah.
it just it's already a busy street anyway, and it's just it's like a main road, and yeah, there's just tons of people that just end up walking by in the middle of the night now as well. And I'm like, oh, this is the one thing I'm not looking forward to. Is just
Yeah.
hearing louts again in the middle of the night and like potentially getting woken up by that.
When
But
does it stop? Do they taper
it
off at a
never
certain point?
stops.
It never, so just all through the night, you just get these
It
drunk
never
people.
stops. Yeah, no, it's
Oh,
just
that would drive me
but
mad.
yeah, you just know how it goes. You know how it goes, right? Like people just filtering out of pubs
Yeah.
and then like clubs and then just making their way home and whatnot. But whatever, it's all good because that was one of the weirdest things was where I used to live, super quiet, and
Hmm.
then when I moved here, that was one thing I just didn't realize is like just how loud it was going at
Mm.
sleeping at night. So I went to bed and it, expecting to like, I'm just, it's dark, it's quiet, it's late, I'm gonna just knock out. And it was just heaving outside. It felt like it was sounded like I was living next to an airport, and it just basically was like I was as if a plane was just taking off constantly. That's what it felt like to me because I went from
Yeah,
like so it was
right.
such a dramatic shift from like being super quiet to being really really loud, and I was just lying there in bed, just like eyes wide open. I was like, all right, I didn't realize this would be
Oh,
what it's
that
like.
drives
I
me
haven't,
mad.
yeah, didn't experience it, but then you adjust, you adapt a little bit
You
as well.
do.
So
You do, you
so
do.
yeah,
I'm very
but
fussy about my sleep, so that would really wind
mm,
me up.
yeah, yeah, it's not great. It's like
No.
still try and do things to like drown out the noise to the extent that I can. In that I don't use like white noise machines or anything like that,
Mm,
but just using a good yoga nidra to help
awesome.
just stop thinking about what's going on out there and turn that attention
Yeah.
internally, and then it just makes it easier to go to sleep.
Do you get woken up by them, or once you're asleep, are you asleep? Does everything that you do during your day, everything that we know about sleep and doing the yoga nidras and the breathing, does that help to keep you asleep?
It's yes, it does. Well, I'm generally a good sleeper in that
Okay.
I will just stay asleep, but then it's going to depend on the amount of stress I put on my body on that given day,
Yeah.
and actually how late I've eaten in the evening as well. So if for
Yes.
whatever reason I've ended up eating late, then I actually wake up fairly often during the night. I just notice like, a few times in the night I've just woken up basically, and then which will mean like you are constantly in this like shifting from sleep to awakeness, and a lot of the time
Mhm.
you don't really notice the awakeness. But so the times that I do notice, I'm like, shit, how many times am I actually waking up in the night? That kind of thing. And then stress in terms of like, if it feels like the physical stress I place on myself or something, or yeah, even just mental stress, if it just gets to a point where it's like it can help keep me up at night. Not keep me up, sorry. I'll wake up more easily at night.
Mm.
But when I've got a good handle on that, which is most of the time, so I'm just dead.
Great.
I'm out, and then I'll wake up in the morning, and yeah, then we're all good. What's
That's
yeah?
that's great.
What's your what's your routine?
Uh, I have a very, very strict bedtime routine. In that I tend to put my phone away probably about half an hour to an hour before I go to bed, um, just so that I don't get revved up by any of the screen light, but also just by any messages or emails that might disrupt my thinking around going to sleep. So that's quite important for me.
Good to know.
Um, I do. I sometimes I journal, and that's been a recent thing. I wrote a post yesterday actually about gratitude, and I often will write a list on my phone of things that I'm grateful for. But I've just yesterday bought a gratitude journal as well, and that's actually really cool. It's got some really nice little pointers on within the journal, and it's like, what's your intention for the day, so you can do it morning and night. How do you feel emotionally, and it's got like little like calm, content, agitated. It's a really nice guideline, so I thought that was nice to have. So that's something that I'll incorporate into my nighttime routine. I do breathing and a yoga nidra as well.
Yeah.
Actually, what
Okay.
I've been doing recently is affirmations, which are much like nidras. They're just nice, relaxing music and affirmations around anything you want. But also just hypnosis stuff as well, which I find really useful. So it's all around the same theme. But I use a guy called, is it Michael Steely? What's the one that I
Yes.
sent
Yeah.
you that Huberman
Yeah.
recommends? So it's Michael
That's the
Steely.
one.
And he has one for calming the mind, which is excellent. You can find that on Spotify if you're listening and you're interested. And actually, for calming, if you have a busy mind, and I most certainly do, that's a really useful one. And it just sort of sends you down slowly into sleep. So I do things like that. And I just make sure that I haven't eaten too late, and all the things that you've pretty much said. And I have to have it quite quiet and quite dark. Yes, things wake me up during the night, but it depends how stressed I am. It depends what's going on. I tend to be able to get back to sleep. Sometimes I get woken up by things that are on my mind. Um, that is the way it is sometimes. But generally, I make sure that I have a good sleep schedule and a good night schedule, and that it's fairly cool as well in my room, and that my sheets, I know it sounds weird, but I did a lot of research around sleep and what's the best way to make your room cozy and comfortable, and actually having really good duvets and clean sheets and things like that, although you might not think of it, it actually makes a difference to have things that are suitable for you, to help you sleep as well. So I make sure that I have all that, and yeah, that's it. And I make sure that I go to bed at pretty much the same time every day, because I have to get up pretty early every day. I have to get up about 6. So I just make sure that I'm in bed and asleep by a certain time.
Tell me more about the duvet bedsheet stuff. Like, what have you learned about
It's more just
optimizing
like
that?
what's suitable for your needs. I think it's more like personal taste and approach. It's like, what do you like? Obviously with pillows, and I did a lot of research within like back pain and postural positioning, lying on your side if you have back pain is pretty much the optimal position, if you can, with a pillow between your knees, and not having too high a pillow underneath your head so it's not tipping your head a certain way. There's a lot of different bits of information and research out there about what's the best way if you have different pain or different restrictions, but generally lying on your side is good. Lying on your back, not so great unless you put a pillow underneath. But also just, it was things like material, like what do you want your material to be, what feels good against your skin. So it was more just what's personal to you, like not too heavy a duvet. But then there's also research into having a weighted blanket, which I've been doing research into, and I'm considering buying one. I haven't done that yet, but that's supposed to help with sleep, with calming the body down, the nervous system down, the mind down, calms anxiety, things like that. So it's preference, isn't it? It's like, I like it very cool and clean and crisp and clear. Other people might like loads of fluffy pillows. I don't know. So it's all about preference and what's going to give you the best sleep. What makes you feel safe and comfortable enough to go to sleep, I think.
Okay, interesting. Do you know anything about the weighted blanket, how it actually works
Yeah,
to
a little bit.
make that happen?
I think it's this whole idea of, I don't know, I'm not going to pretend that I know loads. I've read a bit into it, and there's different weights that you can get depending on your weight and your body weight. But it's more, I think it was made initially for children with autism to give them almost like this weight of feeling of comfort. So it's like a hand on your chest or your abdomen. It's almost like a feeling of, I want to say someone with you, like a mother or something like that. That might be utter bullshit, but I have a feeling it's around that kind of thing. Of it,
Right.
it kind of encapsulates you and makes you feel safe and cozy and like cocooned, you know. So
Okay.
that's all I got. I can research and tell you next week, but I have. I found out about it from a client who had, I think, a child with autism or had some learning difficulties, and they swore by the weighted blanket because it calmed them down and made them sleep through the night. So it was kind of all based around that.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, because I've seen weighted blankets pop up, but I don't really know how they're
Yeah.
working. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. That is, people are saying it is amazing. It's helping me get to sleep, but yeah, I just don't understand what it is yet. Like, yeah, still like even intuitively, I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah,
what
I
it is. But
know.
yeah, I'll look into it. It just hasn't been important
Yeah,
enough to look into yet.
no.
Yeah.
And I've it's been battered around for me. I have looked into it. They're not cheap. That's number one. You know, if you want a good quality one and it's for your weight, shape, and size, then they're not cheap. But I think there are health benefits to it. It's weird though, whether I'd sleep with one, I don't know. But I know it's all
Just
about
don't know until you
calming.
try, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's about
Yeah.
calming the nervous system down, and it helps with anxiety and mental health problems and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, just definitely make sure you get the right size. It just feels like somebody's like sitting on your chest, right?
Imagine. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're just like,
Yeah, or
right,
it's
we're
too
gonna have to,
heavy.
yeah, you're just gonna have to shout. So it's like, help me out with this duvet. Yeah.
like having armor on you. It's like, I think this is wrong. I definitely would research into that and make sure. And I think it's very clear on the websites that sell them anyway. So I've seen them advertised a lot on things like Voucher. So maybe do your research on those sort of things. But go to a legit site that's had a few good reviews, definitely.
Yeah. That's funny. Tell me about the stuff you've been learning this week. You jumped on a Oxygen Advantage course, didn't you?
I did. So yes, I did the functional breathing instructor training for Oxygen Advantage this week, and it was funny. I think I was trying to think why did I suddenly get it into my head to do it this week? Because I've been looking at it for a good few months. I'm like, shall I do it? Shall I do it? Shall I do it? And I think I must have seen an advert or I've seen one of their posts or something like that, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it this week. I'll enroll and see what happens. And so I enrolled on Monday and just started watching all the videos and I just went down a bit of a rabbit hole with it and just watched all the videos and read the manual, and like, he's got some really good stuff. He has, and I'm going to forget her name, but he has a really interesting interview with a yoga teacher who teaches the pranayama breathing and has incorporated Oxygen Advantage breathing into her training and into her practice and into her teaching. And that I found really interesting, because it's like, I know this whole idea of nasal breathing, we should be incorporating as much as we can into our movement practice, into the way we teach. But I haven't got my head wrapped around that. Yes, there's exercises, specific exercises. So the whole concept of Oxygen Advantage is basically nose breathing. So you close your mouth gently and you very, very gently breathe in and out through your nose. And the whole concept behind it is that you breathe slowly, you breathe lightly, and you breathe deeply. And deeply
LSD,
for us,
baby.
Pardon?
LSD.
Oh,
Shoot
is that
some
what
of
it
that
is?
LSD.
Right,
Long,
okay.
slow, deep.
There you are. And for us, the deep is the diaphragmatic breathing. It's not that it is actually just it's encapsulating that diaphragm breathing. So like expansion into our center. But the things that interested me is this light breathing, which I've never really been taught before, and slow. So we're slowing down the amount of breaths we do per minute, which is all about helping carbon dioxide get into our body and do its magic and things like that, which helps oxygenate our lungs better. And it was this whole concept of breathing light that I found really interesting, and how we as instructors and trainers would bring that into our training. It's like, okay, so you close your mouth and you teach everything through the nose, and it's like, okay, and that was something that I think I need to wrap my head around. But the light breathing was really interesting in that when you breathe light, you shouldn't be able, if you put your hand in front of your face a little way, and for those of you who can't see, I'm probably 10 centimeters away, maybe a little bit more away from my face, and when you breathe in and out through the nose, you shouldn't be able to feel that air on your hand. That's how lightly you should breathe. What's that?
Done. I've accomplished that.
Fine.
Done. I'm a ninja at breathing.
You are, you got it. And it's all about
okay.
doing that, slowing down your breathing and then bringing it into things like cadence breathing, which is where you slowly breathe in for 4, doing all this slow, light, deep. Breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6, but you breathe out for 5 and then you hold for that 6th breath or beat. So it's about slowing it down, which gives you that feeling of almost like oxygen starvation or air starvation. And that's how we start to build up a less sensitivity to carbon dioxide. So we're basically helping our system. And it was really interesting. But for me now, it's obviously reading through the manual and doing everything and learning the exercises. But it's now about how do I incorporate into that and everything that I've learned with ID. I think it will marry up really, really well. But and this is a question maybe we can discuss. How would you do heavy weights doing that? How would you do martial art nose breathing, where there has to be a certain amount of force and tension and pressure and power? Like, Kathy Dooley always goes on about that tension breathing. Say you're a weightlifter or a power lifter, and you need that force breathing to help bring that weight back up or whatever it is. How would you do that nose breathing? Would you do that nose breathing? Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
does it have its place?
Mm-hmm.
Or should
Yeah.
everything be nose breathing? So that's where I'm
Yeah.
at, really.
Yeah. No, it's a good question to ask. And LSD is a good way to remember it. Light, slow,
Yeah,
deep. Sorry,
that's
I
so
said
deep.
long, slow, deep earlier, but I meant light, slow,
That's
deep.
so deep. Yeah.
But yeah, it's an appropriate question because it's context dependent. In the context of your life, like day to
Yes.
day, you need
Mm.
to be nasal breathing. You need to be doing that. You don't want to be breathing out your mouth. Basically, it's
Yeah.
just not as breathing in and out through your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not healthy for you in terms of actually
No.
utilizing oxygen for your body. It's not efficient. It's not effective. When you start to breathe in through the nose, that you're activating these chemicals which dilate your blood vessels to help you get oxygen around and
Yep.
then deliver that properly, right, to like
Yep.
every cell in the body. And so yeah, day to day, that's what you want to do. And then regular running, same thing. Is that basically when it comes to that kind of cardio exercise, you want to breathe in and out through the nose as best as you can throughout the whole activity. And then when it starts to get a bit too desperate, then yeah, use your mouth as well. Try and breathe in
Mm-hmm.
through the nose, but breathe out through the mouth, because there comes a point where you just need to expel the air. You need to get rid of that carbon dioxide as much as possible. So yeah, cardio activity, in and out through the nose as best as you can for as long as you can until it becomes a bit too intense, and then you start to incorporate your mouth into that instead, to make it easier to get rid of the breath. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting. It's like if I'm doing some sprints, I try and breathe in and out through the nose as much as possible, and that's really freaking hard. It's like,
Mm.
first of all, you just like spluttering snot everywhere as well,
Mm.
because it gets to that point where you get to the point where you trained hard, and then like that mucus starts to thin and it just wants to get out of your system, and it's like, oh god, I'm just like, it feels like it looks like you're snotting everywhere, but it's actually it helps you to, like you said, that carbon dioxide tolerance, you improve it, but because it's what is carbon dioxide, that buildup of carbon dioxide, which forces your body to use oxygen.
Yes, correct.
So you want to actually try and do that as best as you possibly can,
Yeah.
right? And the more you do that, the greater the tolerance you experience, the easier that breathing. With that nasal breathing as well, you're going to activate that diaphragm a lot more efficiently. It's when you breathe like that, it's intrinsically tied to better diaphragm activation. And why that's important is because that's your primary muscle of breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So diaphragm is that sheet of muscle that sits under the lungs, and it's your primary muscle of breathing. So that gets engaged, and that allows the lungs to fill up with air properly and more. If you don't do that, so if you're breathing in through the mouth, you probably get, I think that some estimates place out like 20% less
Yes.
air is drawn in to your lungs.
Yes.
And but then you start switching to nasal breathing, you're actually drawing in more air into the lungs as well. So because of that, your cardio improves. So your improvement to carbon dioxide, your tolerance to carbon dioxide, and the fact that you're breathing in through the nose, it allows you to take more air in, your cardiorespiratory function improves. You're just better at going on for longer as a result of that. Now, powerlifting and stuff like that is different. Where you're lifting heavy weights, there's a spectrum there, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing pretty light, then yeah, you can breathe in and out consistently through the nose. When it starts to get to that really heavy level, you don't actually want to breathe at all. You want to take that big breath in, engage the core with that intra-abdominal pressure. It's known, like, it should feel like a expanded barrel and tense, like your core being, just think of the area between like the shoulder to the hip and the muscles of the core that protect the spine. They're just engaged, and then you just hold that, because if
Mm-hmm.
there's any deviation from the level of stiffness and support that your spine needs by that kind of activation of the cores when you're lifting heavy, then you're massively increasing your chance of injury. And
Hmm.
then when I say heavy, we're talking about like, the that kind of 1 to 5 rep max range, where each rep that you do, you're just holding your breath through the repetition essentially.
Mm.
So so it matters how you breathe during different kinds of activities. But essentially, it comes down to day to day, breathe in through the nose, breathe in and out through the nose, cardio, breathe in and out through the nose completely until it just gets too much. When that level of intensity of the cardio is too much and you feel like you're not going to,
Mm.
you just stay with that feeling of feeling like you can't breathe. But then when it gets a little too much, just let it go, and then improve your tolerance with that. And then when it comes to weightlifting, that's definitely more on a gradient as well. And then like grappling, jiu-jitsu, fighting, it's same thing. You want to breathe in and out through the nose as much as you can, and then there's that moment of creating tension
Mm.
is
And
like that.
power.
Yeah, creating tension and power is that kind of that piston effect of
Yeah.
breathing out and then like
Yeah.
creating that momentary tension. Um, and there's that tricky thing, especially when it comes to people who get punched in the face for a living. It's your
Massive.
nose is all bashed up, right? So
Mm.
it's one of those things you just got to contend with. Is like, oh, well, as best as you can, breathe in and out through the nose.
Mm.
If the possibility is there, then get your nose sorted out and get it fixed up.
Open up
And
the airways for sure.
yeah, exactly. But if it's not, then you make do with what you can.
Yeah, you just get by. I would like to add on to everything you say that it does take practice to
Mm.
learn how to nose breathe. And what's really nice about the oxygen advantage training that I just did is that it gives you lots of really nice little exercises to help build up someone's tolerance to nose breathing and carbon dioxide. And there's something called a BOLT test that you can do, which is your blood oxygen level test, which is how you kind of figure out how tolerant you are to carbon dioxide building up into your system. Me, not very good. Right now, it got better over the week, and it's something that I will start to do more of. But there's just some really nice exercises to help build your tolerance so that you could then go on to start walking, nose breathing, to start jogging. And it's very incremental. Personally, I find it very difficult to nose breathe and run. So it's something that you build up over time. It's not just something, just for the purposes of people listening, it's not something that you're just able to do. It takes time and
Yes.
massive amounts of practice to be able to
If
nose breathe. Sorry, carry on.
if you're no good at it, if you're sitting here listening or walking and just start paying attention to your breathing, you're noticing that it's actually coming through the mouth, then because your default is going to be through the mouth, then you're just going to have to practice
Yeah,
getting used to breathing in through the nose. But you will feel better for it. Is
absolutely. And the nose is a muscle. That what you're doing by practicing nose breathing, it takes a little bit of time, because if you haven't been used to doing that and you've been used to breathing through your mouth, like any muscle that doesn't get used, it pretty much shuts down. It's not as sort of effective. So it takes a little bit of time to unblock those airways. And I think something that he did in one of the videos is get you to breathe in and out through one side of your nose and then the other side, just to see if there's one that might be blocked. And by purely doing that, that's hugely beneficial to actually starting to train the nose to work more efficiently and build up those chemicals that then help to dilate the bronchial in your lungs and get better oxygen retrieval. It's been really cool though, because I am a chronic overbreather. I have been since I was a very young musician, and it's almost empowering and enlightening to learn about all this, because it's like, oh, that's what I did, that's why I feel like that. And I do. And dysfunctional breathing, over breathing, hyperventilation, they're all kind of just signs of dysfunctional, dysregulated breathing. And if you have any of these traits where you have to take a breath in every so often, like a bigger breath in, or you're sighing a lot, or you're yawning a lot, or you're just paradoxical breathing, so your chest breathing or shoulders are elevating, they're all signs of dysfunctional breathing. And know that it might take a bit of time, but you can absolutely change all of that, and that's going to make your entire system not only your entire system, but your brain, the way everything works. It's going to help and calm everything down and help with things like anxiety, and also things like allergies and sinus stuff. There's a really nice little exercise in there that is really good for hay fever and allergies. And I don't know why it works, but you have to breathe in and out and then hold your nose and then rock from side to side for about 20 seconds. And that's supposed to alleviate allergies and hay fever and things like that. And it actually does work. So it's almost like this building and balancing of equilibrium within the body. And yeah, it was a really nice course, and I'd like to do a little bit more as and when. And something else that I was interested when he was having a chat with that yoga lady is that there's a real culture in Pilates and yoga. And if you go into any studio, it's almost like a thing to hear everyone breathing. And this is what she was saying as well, that, you know, you can hear like these big breaths in. And it's almost like, I don't know, it's coming to a turning point where that's not the key. That's not what's going to be it. It's like you want to go into a studio eventually, and I think it's going to take a bit of time. It's certainly going to take a bit of time for me to bring it into my practice where you don't hear anything. Everyone's quietly breathing and getting on with the exercises, and that's better for you. So it's going to be interesting to see this wave of new ways of breathing come into gyms and studios and just our way of life. And I think we're all going to be better for it.
Yeah, it needs to happen. I mean, with a respiratory virus that's dominated everyone's lives over the last year and a bit.
Huge.
As when you learn how to breathe correctly, well, you're doing many things. Is like you're gonna limit the chance of spreading that virus as well, because if you breathe out through the mouth, they just projectile particles goes a lot further, whereas you breathe through your nose, it doesn't go very far at all. Like you said, 10 centimeters in front of you, you shouldn't be able to feel the air coming out of your nose, right?
Yeah.
And then and actually like that, the chemicals get released from inhaling through the nose actually have an antiviral effect as well. So again, none of this is to say that you're never going to get sick, but you are increasing your chances of combating any kind of illnesses, and especially respiratory illnesses that you might get, because you're better able to breathe through the nose. So yeah, it's huge, and it should. We needed to make a wave through the world, but it's an interesting one where it's like you're hearing people breathing in these classes, in these Pilates classes, and you shouldn't be able to. And but I wonder, like, what you think of this as well. Is like there's something to be said where, because people's breathing can be so dysfunctional, and in terms of like feeling that breath, sometimes we have to get people to exaggerate the breathing to experience what it should feel like, because they're just not that great. It's kind of like, it's being too far one way and then going too far the other way to find that balance again, because you have to you have to overdo it a little bit to know what it kind of feels like. Just when you're teaching somebody to breathe for like diaphragmatically, normally again you just like, okay, place hand on chest, hand on the belly, and you breathe into here, but like exaggerate, like really feel that expanding. Because the idea is you want to wake that up a little bit. You want to wake up that sensation for you, and then when you get better at it, you'll just fall into a more natural, calm breathing pattern.
Definitely. And I think that's down to us as trainers and teachers. I think this is about, and I totally agree with that, actually trying to get someone to breathe well. I think you do have to exaggerate the process, especially if they're struggling, especially if they've been a chest breather or an overbreather, or they've hyperventilated for all their lives. It's going to be a process. So as you were speaking, I was thinking, yeah, absolutely. This is going to be something that I'm going to have to build into my way of teaching, so that I combine everything in a certain way. So it's going to be unique to my teaching, just because I have this course and that course, and then looking at the individual and knowing intuitively what they need. Some people are awesome at diaphragmatic breathing. Some people have no idea what you're talking about. So it's about tailoring it to the individual. If you think someone could go straight into nose breathing, Yes, definitely. But I think for most people, because it's such an alien concept, I've said it so many times about taping my mouth during sleep so that I nose breathe, and people are like, "You are mental. What are you talking about?" And it's like, no, no, no. There's health benefits. This is why jaw health, anatomy. Um,
Hmm.
and I think it's just about baby steps with lots of people. I've spoken to dentists who are even like, "You pardon me, you what? Your mouth?" And
Yeah.
your pardon, and so it's just slowly bringing it into people's consciousness. So I just think it depends where they're at on that scale as to how you teach them and what you bring in. Because like this week, it's been great, but also I'm like, okay, you've got to bring this into your teaching now. You've got to incorporate it somehow. How are you going to do that? Can you do that within a class? Yeah, we could put that into a relaxation at the end for sure. So it's just like maybe just spoon feeding little bits here and there for me more than the client, so that I understand how to bring it all together. It's like when I first learned about immaculate dissection and the core and how diaphragmatic breathing worked. It was like, how do I drip feed this into my work so it's not this explosion of, oh no, we don't do that anymore. We don't do navel to spine and pull up the pelvic floor. You have to do it really slowly. Otherwise people are going to be like, what the fuck? So everything we've just learned from you is wrong. No, this is the research and this is the science, and slowly, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always an integration process as well. I remember meeting a
For
guy,
sure.
when I did DNS, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. I
Oh,
just,
I still want to do that course. God damn.
mm, yeah, but yeah, that just sounds like three long ass words strung together. But essentially,
Yes.
it's just how your body creates stability and efficient movement mechanics
Mm.
through movement. So dynamic part neuromuscular is just that brain and body link, and then stabilization is just creating stability, because that's the first thing that your body's looking for when you're doing something, is to be stable and do it off a
Yes.
stable platform. And I remember is when it was getting taught, and this guy is just like kind of super apprehensive, like first half of the course. He's like, wait, asking questions, is like, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? Etc. Etc. And then when it finished, he he was like, he came up to me and my colleague, and he was just like, all right, I feel like I've just been fucking people up for the last however long I've been doing this. It's
Right.
just like everything I've been doing is wrong. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, dude, slow down, slow
Yeah.
down. It's
Okay.
like,
You haven't.
relax, it's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So just you gotta integrate this kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
because whatever you've been doing, obviously you've helped people out. So there is
Exactly.
merit to it, but at the same time, it's like this is an opportunity just to get better, just to
Yeah.
improve. Because I mean, at the end of the day, however long our careers are going to last, shit changes all the time, and especially with
All
the
the
way that
time.
information is being shared now, that
Yeah.
there's something changing all the time. Like so, you can't just be like, okay, well, I was always wrong, and it was useless, and now is
Mm.
the next thing, and here's the next thing, is the next thing. First of all, that's just riddled with anxiety. You can't be in that state all the time, but um, it's not it's not useful, because then all that means is it's kind of like it's it's not dogmatic. That's not the word I'm looking for. Yeah, you haven't really thought about it enough. You haven't thought about uh, the the application properly, or you haven't thought about what it means properly. And I can say that because that's where I was as well. It was like just trying to. I was like super militant about, like, right in the beginning, about certain
Mm.
things. Is like this partly why I stopped training for a long time, because I was like, okay, well, I want to get my body right, but I didn't realize that training can be a part of that. But I just thought I was just
Mm.
going to mess myself up, so cut it out completely. But then you come round eventually, because you start to realize that um, it's not about like one thing, and it's not about being militant about certain things, and it's about incorporating and integrating and making everything work, because things are a lot more complicated than just okay, well, here's that one thing, I was doing it completely wrong before, and now here's the only way to do it. Certain things we know for sure that we don't really want to be doing, unless it's a very, very specific context, like, for example, that pulling the belly button in. help you create stability was biggest misconception that had been going
But you'd be
around
amazed how many
for a
people are
long
still
time.
teaching that, especially in
Yeah,
my world.
yeah,
So it's almost like I'm a bit of a black horse in that
yeah.
respect.
That's why
Yeah,
everyone's wearing black, right?
for sure. It's
Exactly.
nothing to do with my
Yeah.
ninja status at all.
Nothing to do with your Trinity ninja status whatsoever. Yeah,
My
it's
want to be, anyway.
yeah, it's yeah, it's. I mean, like people who don't understand or don't know, and who may have come across that style of creating core tension and stability before, it was just based on this misinterpreted idea that you need to squeeze the corset muscle of the abdominals, the one that goes around from front to
Zip
back.
and hollow, as they call it in
Yeah,
the Pilates
yeah,
world.
yeah. The TVA muscle. Yeah, zip and hollow. So hollow your abs and zip it up, i.e.,
Zip your
pull the
pelvic
pelvic floor
floor.
in. Yeah. So it's just basically, essentially, if you need to take a piss or you need to take a shit, hold it. That's what they were saying. Is like just hold it the whole time. Do you remember that? Do you remember Cool Runnings?
Yeah,
Just remember, like they get into the bobsled and
yeah.
they're about to go down, and then Sanka's like, "Hey, coach, I need to go." He's like, "What do you mean?" He goes like, "You go to the toilet." He's like, "Hold it." He's like, "Hold it." He's like, "Hold it, hold it." He just kept saying, "You want me to hold it?" It's like, "Yeah, buddy, use that pelvic floor. You're gonna go on a bobsled right now."
Oh, don't get me started. No pulling up of the pelvic floor. No, no,
No,
no.
but that is a sick film. That is a great
It's a good
film.
foam.
It's,
Foam?
it's a,
Film.
just blame it on the retainer. Whenever something goes wrong, just blame it on the retainer.
Oh my God, I've been so lispy this week as well.
Especially if you start saying like outlandish shit to people, you just start telling them they're whatever. You're like, "Oh, sorry, that was the retainer."
It's
I
all the
just,
brace, that's it.
yeah,
Oh, I sound so super serious this week. It's just every week is different because you change them every week and they move
right.
slightly different teeth each week. And this week I've really noticed I'm like fluff and fluff and fluff. Oh man.
Just drooling out the corner of your mouth,
Which
doing
is
all
really
that.
hard in a Pilates class where it's just you speaking to, 300 people on Zoom. It's like, oh, stop. Stop. Anyway, carry on. Oh,
Brilliant. Yeah, is yeah, the misconception about like zip and hollow is the idea was it was just basically misinterpreted data. They were
yeah,
like, yeah, because it helps you
yeah,
create core tension. It's like yeah, if the TVA is activated, it helps you create core tension, but you're missing the point because it's in the
it.
context of the whole core doing its job. So yeah, so it's yeah, the stuff like that is like, yeah, do away with that. Let's move on. But there's a place where you can use it if you want somebody to actually understand how to engage that TVA muscle. How
That
to,
particular muscle, if it might
yeah,
need a bit of work,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. But it's
Um,
very, very, very narrow context.
Definitely. And just while you were saying all that, it was this idea of people maybe being a bit stuck in their ways and being a bit resistant to change. And it reminded me of something that Dr. Huberman said, so the neuroscientist that we both love, that
Shout out to Hoobsy.
Andrew
Yeah.
and his dog Costello,
Yeah.
that I remember on a podcast him talking about learning and how in order to learn, in particular for adults, which we find we're not as pliable and as plastic as children. We don't have that ability to soak and absorb information up as they do. And so in order to learn as an adult, what really helps is to play and to have a playful spirit and to be joyful and to basically mess about and to be open to learning and to be open to learning new things. And I think they're really wise words that if you and I suppose in the context that I'm talking about, if you are just like, no, that's the way it is, navel to spine all the way, I don't want to know, then you're always going to be stuck in that remit and you're not going to be open to learning about new things. But I think if you are open to learning about new things and you approach it almost, I want to say in a childlike way. I don't think that's what I mean, but, you know, just open to learning and open to going, okay, so that's not the way anymore. And this is now. It's like, it is quite childlike, because children, you, as a child, you could, oh, okay, so that's right, great, okay, and that's the way, right? And just having that joyful, playful way, and being open to learning new things, I think that's hugely valid. And I wonder whether, you know, because I remember when I first learned all this stuff, and I had been teaching the whole navel to spine, it was like, oh, okay, show me, let me understand. This is awesome. Like, let's play about with this. Let's understand it. Let's see how effective it is. And I think if you can bring that to your clients as well, and go, hey, you know, well, it's not that we were wrong. It's just that we're exploring, and you make it an explorative practice. I think that takes away from, it's not wrong, it's just we've moved on, and let's figure this out. And I think being open to stuff is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be. 'Cause, yeah, I mean, if it's talk about learning, and if learning as an adult, yeah, we just don't soak it up as well. So instead of, like, you know, you're a kid and you're just passively taking in information, like, you know, you probably would have experienced it with with Noah. Is like, when he's
Yeah.
growing up, it's like, where the hell did you get that from? How did
Yeah.
those words come
Oh,
out
I
of your
have it all
mouth?
the
Like,
time. Yeah.
yeah, where did you learn how to do this? Whatever. It's just because from the environment they're just soaking stuff up that you don't even know what the hell's going on. And whereas that doesn't happen with us, we have to be a lot more active in our pursuit of owning information and acquiring that knowledge. So you have to, yeah, being creative is a great way to do that, and you have to be kind of open to be creative. And but yeah, you just have to sit with it. You have to really focus on the stuff as well. So that's where play comes in terms of that creativity as well, because play just allows you to be creative and just have fun with things. So it's like there's that time where you can be like, you know, you need to be super productive and super, you know, super serious,
Super
like
serious.
yeah, super serious about how you the learning that you're doing, but you need to have that playfulness with it as well.
Definitely.
It's yeah, it's interesting. I've been thinking about it a little bit recently as well, because it's with being productive, it's often thought of as like a, yeah, it's that serious endeavor, right? It's like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this so I can get this thing done, and that helps me be better at whatever it is. Whether it's like, you know, okay, I get the job done, and then, you know, I'm going to get paid, or I can do this, and that means I'm going to get better at like better at the thing that I want to be better at. Like for us, let's just think jujitsu,
Yeah.
and then you can be thinking about it constantly in those productive terms, and you lose that sense of playfulness with it. And so you're getting what you want out of it, as in, you know, when you're learning, you've got that focused attention, you're pushing that skills challenge boundary as well, so you're able to assimilate new information and also take it in. Well, that's what I mean by assimilate, is like you're going to be taking that information in, and but processing it a lot better because of that level of focus and attention that you have, you know, attached to it. But that sense of play is essentially having fun with that as well. Because if it's not fun, then it's you know, we talked about it a long time ago. It might have even been actually when you were guest appearing on the podcast. But how your brain tags, yeah, how your brain tags these neural pathways with certain neurochemicals to highlight that this is important. And one of those is those, you know, the anticipation of reward, or the reward neurochemical, which is dopamine. And so dopamine essentially is just like, yeah, when you're feeling good and when you're rewarding yourself. And so if you're not rewarding that process of that learning, or that process of attaining that outcome, and you're just focusing on being productive, then it's a lot less easy for you to remember what you've done, right? And whereas if you're introducing that sense of reward to it, then it's easier for you to remember what you've done. It just wires that information into your brain a lot more easily. So, and that's where play comes into it, because if you're having fun with that process, then you're adding that extra layer on to the learning process, which is important for you to own that information and make it stick. And so where it goes there then is having that endeavor is not just about the focus to achieve, it's also having fun along the way and
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it along the way. So it's making it mean something which is important to you, and important because it enhances the quality of your life, and therefore because it enhances the quality of your life, for me it feels like it should feel like a fun endeavor to do that as well. Sure, there's going to be times when it's a slog. Like, you and I own our businesses basically. We
Mm-hmm.
run, it's completely down to us whether we earn money or not. It's like I'm not employed by anyone else. It's just I am the person who's bringing the income. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'm working on the business, it could potentially feel like a slog, and I'm learning something to make my business run better. But if I'm constantly viewing it as a slog and it's like just something that I have to do, then it's not entertaining. It's not, and even though it's the thing I spend most of my time doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not entertaining, then I'm just basically living a shit life. And at the same time, is I'm not learning uh, what it takes to do this job, to do it well, or as well as I could be. Whereas because I'm like, okay, no, this is the thing that I do, and there's the mundane stuff that comes with it, but I attach a certain level of meaning to the mundane stuff, and I make it more fun that way. Then I get through my day to day, and I get through my job a lot quicker, and I get through it with more joy attached to it, and I've I've done more as well, and there's more to learn from having done that too.
Definitely.
Mm.
And I also think as we as trainers, taking that idea of play into our businesses in terms of how we teach as well, I think that's
Mm.
important. So to pass that on to our clients and to make the sessions, yes, informative, yes, serious, but also fun and
Mm.
and not entertaining. I don't mean that, but if you're very right, get on the couch, do this, do that, I feel like people are less responsive than if you actually have a rapport and an interaction with them, and you make it interesting and you make it informative but fun. So I think applying that to our businesses in that way as well is important, so that the client our clients pick up the information. They generally remember stuff that we say to them, firstly, if it's useful, but secondly, if it was delivered in a way that makes sense to them and also is interesting, I think.
Mm.
And in my classes, I tend to play around quite a lot, and there's no pressure on people. It's like, if you fall, you fall. If you roll and you fall down or you can't get up, don't worry. I think people tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves. I can't do this exercise. I can't do this movement. And what I try and give to them is like, don't even worry. It doesn't matter. Play with it. If you fall, great.
Mm.
That's your brain learning that that's not quite right. So you'll
Exactly.
bring that proprioception into the next time that you do it. And maybe after a few nights sleep, you'll bring into it again, and you'll be able to do it. So it's like, this is about playing and learning. It's not about doing it perfectly,
Mm.
ever.
Yeah.
Because every time you do it, your body's going to feel different. Your
Mm.
breathing's going to be different. You're mentally going to be in a different place every time. So
Yeah.
sometimes you're going to be able to do it, sometimes you're not, and that's okay. But as long as
Mm.
you play and it's fine and you don't beat yourself up if you can't do an exercise, then it's great.
Yeah. There's the I encourage micro fuck ups.
Oh, me too.
Is
Every day.
is like
Brilliant.
just keep
And I
screwing it
fuck
up.
up as well because I
Yeah.
demo a lot. I fuck up all the time and I explain a lot that I have a shitty back and this is why. And I feel like that level of imperfection, people are like, oh, great. Well, she can't do it. So if she can't do it, then it's all right. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that
Mm.
makes it more real for people as well. If you fuck up, and I
Yeah.
fuck up regularly on camera in front of all these
Yeah.
people, and I'm like, I'm funny. So
Yeah.
yeah, it makes it more
I
real for
wonder.
people, I think.
Yeah. There's an element of me that makes me go, like, what does that tell us about people? It's like, I want you to be on a lower level so I can relate to you.
I
Like,
think that
that's
it's
what it is.
intimidating. I think you
Yeah.
walk into
Yeah.
a class and you
What-
see a Pilates teacher, you feel like it's intimidating, and it's like, I am not intimidating in any way, shape, or form. Let's show you. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah. That's amazing. It's like I'm scared of Jude Banger. It's,
me to be scared in a
But
training session, but you
yeah,
know.
no, it's yeah, that part's always interesting to me. I think it's I wonder, yeah, I wonder if it's because, yes, as I'm getting older and getting a lot more of a sense and awareness of the process it takes to, let's call it greatness, your own greatness, like
Mhm.
whatever great is to you, you're going to achieve it. So if I see somebody who's excellent at what they do or
Mhm.
is great, there's a lot less intimidation because it's like, I know what you've been through to get this. Like, it's never easy to achieve mastery, you know.
Mm.
So people who like you're looking at, say, I mean, famous doesn't necessarily mean you've
No.
attained a certain level of mastery, but I'm gonna go
Well
off on
known in
one
their field.
about my, yeah,
Go
but
on,
yeah,
you.
but I'll go off on one of my boy Tom Cruise. He's
Okay.
clearly somebody who's achieved like mastery in what he does, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of making movies, he's doing what he absolutely loves to do, and that shines through in the work that he produces, and he's unrelenting in his pursuit to make something which he believes to be the truest way of doing the art form, and so that people who actually go to watch the art and go to watch his movies for entertainment are coming away from it going like, yeah, that was legit. It's like,
Yeah,
for example, I can't wait till Top Gun Maverick comes out at the end of the
that's
year
right.
because they're going to do some wild shit that hasn't been done before, and which is make a movie and not use CGI for these flying
Wow.
stunts, right?
Oh,
They
wow.
actually
Okay.
they did the impossible and figured out how to put, like, I don't know if it was IMAX cameras, but movie cameras onto these planes so they could film them doing these
Yeah.
stunts, and that's insane. And and so, but yeah, so yeah, it made me think of that as well. But like, essentially, what I'm saying there is, so he's somebody who's like been at the pinnacle of the game for at least 30 years as well, right?
Hmm.
And just stayed there. And it is amazing. It is mesmerizing because that level of consistency and commitment is off the charts. It's just the kind of thing that most people, maybe only 1% of people in the world ever display, or ever get to and do on a regular basis. But when you see like what it takes and when you notice that, is like, I feel like I could meet the guy and yeah, there'll be a moment of astounding. Like, I'm like, holy shit, here's
Hmm.
this dude who's like, I've followed his career essentially. It's like I've watched a lot of his movies,
Yeah.
but I could have a conversation with him without being an equal.
Of
Is I
course.
wouldn't have to. I wouldn't be like, yeah, he's amazing at that, but there's things that I'm good at that he's not going to be good at.
Exactly.
That kind of thing.
He's still a
Is
person.
Yeah, he's still a human being, right? It's still a human being. So when you start to notice that, I feel like, for me at least, it's a lesser way of being to want to want to relate to someone
Hmm.
because you found their flaws. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. Sorry, explain that
Yeah,
again.
it's like what it's just that thing of okay, so let's just use you as the avatar here as well. Your
Mhm.
client, like people who come to your class, come in and they're going to be intimidated because they see you and they think, shit, I can't do anything that she's doing, right?
Mm.
But what I'm saying is you don't have to be intimidated.
No.
You look at that and go, oh shit, this is what's capable, this is what's possible. So I'll just be where I'm at and I'll
I
work my
see.
way up to the level which I
Yes.
want to be at. So whereas trying to relate to you on the level is like, where are your flaws? Where are your problems? And being like, oh, okay, she's human too. In that
Mm.
sense, for
Yeah.
me, is like, I feel like that's a lower level of being than looking at where you're at and actually trying to aim for something similar for yourself.
Yeah, I see. I see what you
Yeah,
mean.
and that's
Yeah.
and it's like, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't do that as well. I'm saying I'm moving away from doing that. I'm trying to
Mm.
move away from doing that because it feels like it's too kind of yeah, it's exactly that. It's just too much like, bringing yourself down to feel okay, to feel good about where you're at. Whereas it's like, no, let's just look up
Yeah.
instead. Let's aim for
So be
that
inspirational and
and
don't
be
point out your
inspired.
flaws. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good
I
way to
like
put it.
it.
Be inspirational and be inspired rather than
Don't point out your
look,
flaws. And
or not
yeah,
necessarily don't point out the flaws, but like don't be looking for the flaws to make somebody relatable to you. Just
mm,
look at what they've done,
yeah, I
and
understand that.
or rather notice that wherever that person is always going to have taken a bit of work. So be inspired by that work and be inspired to do the same thing for yourself.
Yeah, I totally
It's
agree that
yeah,
definitely.
I've never articulated it before, but that's
No,
how it's
that's
kind
really
of come out
good.
at the moment. But
Yeah, and I think potentially people, it's going on for me. So they're like, okay, you've got a back condition, you've got a bit of a fracture, you've got stuff going on, but yet you can move like you do, you can move like they do,
yeah,
and it's
say the line
sorry,
properly.
you move like they do. No, wait, sorry, it's Trinity, isn't it? I was doing so, you move like they do. Sorry. Um, and I think that's
Matrix
the
reference.
inspiration. Sorry, always. I think that's the inspiration, isn't it? Is that I have a back condition. It's fairly gnarly, and I don't let it stop me. I can move fairly well. I run. I do martial art. I lift heavy weights when I can get to a gym and I'm allowed. So yeah, but I guess sometimes in my classes I'm like, I have a back condition, so I'm not going to do that today. That's not ideal for me today because that hurts. And I feel like maybe that level of realism sometimes is helpful for people that, oh, okay, she's not going to do something because she's listening to her body and it hurts. It's okay for me to not do certain things and feel like I have to push through, even though it hurts. It's like, know your body and learn what feels okay and what doesn't. If you want to sit something out, you can't do it. That's okay. You build up to it. I don't know. I guess that's what I mean. But I really like what you're saying about be inspirational rather than point out your flaws. And it's something that I would like to start thinking about within my classes and my training and my teaching. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. I think because I know, I know with you, for example, you just let yourself shrink sometimes. You're
mhm.
just like, no, no, it's okay, it's okay. It's like, nah, be big, be
Be
big.
big.
It's like show what's possible, kind of thing.
Mm,
I think, yeah, I think that's essentially, I guess, where I'm going with that as well. Is like be
mhm,
inspired rather than looking for, be inspired and relate to the process rather than looking for the thing that is, well, I guess, I wonder if, yeah, flaw is even the right word. It's just, just whatever makes you human. Because that process, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm going to stop. Keep talking about
no, I
like
get it.
try and
I get it. I get
I'm
it.
not going to try as well. I'm not going to stop talking about it, but I'm going to stop trying to say the words in a way
Okay, so
where I can't quite get there yet. But I feel like that's it's a good thing to explore.
yeah,
Yeah, but essentially it's just like be inspired rather than looking for the flaws to find relatability.
definitely. And I think this comes back to personality as well, and learning where you are at as a person and how you're growing as a person. You pointing out that to me, I'm like, yeah, I do that, don't I? But that's a whole learning curve that I'm
Yeah,
going through, isn't it?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, it's funny because
I'll
like
be better.
yeah, yeah. No, because sometimes what happens is funny because I guess I'll pick up on when you're in that state, and then sometimes I'll just pretend to like I'll just pretend I believe something outlandish, and then I'll see where you sit with it. And then
Like
whether
what?
if you start to agree, like if you start to agree, I'm like, okay, I know what state of mind she's in now as well. She's just like she shrunk. But then,
Give me an example on the podcast or just in life?
oh no, just in life, just in life.
Okay.
I'll just see what you think about it. But like on the podcast, is yeah, it was just obviously I was just I'm fucking around as well. But like when I
Oh
say
no.
let's just start a cult, and then
Yeah.
just wanted to see where you go with it. Like, do I
Your
entertain the cult?
microphone's gone funny. Turn your
Oh,
microphone
sorry.
up.
There we
I was
go.
like, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
Chatting
okay, good.
about.
She's a good headspace. She was like, you're like, okay, whatever you say.
You're weird.
But yeah, exactly. That's fine. I'm cool. I can live with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's interesting as well. I think people do that a lot as well. I definitely notice that. It's like we shrink ourselves in the company of others to kind of, in a way, like it feels like we're taking up space by being ourselves,
Yes.
and I don't like that either. It's
No, I
just
don't either.
because
But
I
it
just
is a
feel like
learning
you just
curve. Go on.
right. But you're talking about yourself there.
I think just in general as well. It depends. Again, it just depends on personality. But carry on. Like, I like what you're saying about that's you shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, because it's just what it's suggesting is that people can't handle other people being the best version of themselves, and that's a bit shit.
It
You
is a
know,
bit shit. It is a bit shit for
it's
sure.
like
But you will
it's
shed those people over time because as you start to
yeah,
become the best version of yourself, you will shed the people as you go along that journey, and as you become that best version, they'll just fall by the wayside, and you'll notice that as that happens as you
yeah.
start to shine brighter for sure.
Yeah, and I know you've been on that journey in terms of, well, at least in one sense with dropping alcohol out of your life, right?
Yeah. And I'm super proud of that. Like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
it was roughly 2 years ago, maybe a week ago, I hit that 24-month anniversary. And it's been eye-opening. And part of me is like, I don't want to harp on about this, but it is a big deal. And I think a lot of people find it hard to wrap their heads around. But for me, it changed everything in my life, and it made me realize that I wasn't happy within my life and that there were certain things that I needed to change. And and once I started to change those things, everything started to change. Sorry, I know I'm being kind of quite I'm skirting around the point, but I just feel like that was the start of me changing and becoming bigger and better and starting to shine a bit brighter. So, and you do, make no mistake, drop people along the way that don't like you becoming that better version of yourself, that want to keep you small and keep you in that little version. But it is a process, and it's a learning curve, and I'm still learning very much how to become that bigger, brighter person. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. It always is, just because it's like, is you're adding, you're incorporating new parts of yourself. Like, if you're interested in, it's just basically if you're interested in being a better human being, and well, let's not even look at it that. If you just want to improve your life, right, that
Yes.
is essentially you trying to be a better human being, and it should feel like, that's the thing to do, is like to be continuously improving your life,
Always.
because it's kind of like
Yeah.
there's no limits to that, and well, you just want to feel good, right? You want to feel good in your life, like whatever your own definition of good is. So you're always going to be adding new pieces to yourself, and you're going to be incorporating that. And so if you're afraid to do that on some level, or if you're not doing that, and based on your environment, the people you're kind of hanging out with is kind of being suppressed, then you start to resent that, right? You start to become a person that you don't actually want to be. So even though you're trying to be a better person, or you're trying to live an improved life, the fact that you don't get the opportunity to is probably makes things worse than, I wonder if that makes things worse than actually just staying where you are. Like, you're not trying to improve, you're just trying to stay where you are, even though that means you're effectively going backwards. But there's but there's less frustration there because there's nothing holding you back. You know, it's all on
Mm.
you. Whereas, yeah, again, this is going into
It's
new
okay,
places again.
unravel it. Yeah, yeah.
But it's also, so if you're trying to do better and then you don't have the opportunity to apply that, then there's resentment and frustration that builds up from that,
Yep.
and in a different way. And so then it's like, how much are you gonna let that have a hold over you? What are the consequences of you staying in that group? If we're talking about, like as you put it as well, is you're gonna lose people along the way when you make a choice to live a better life. In that context, is like, what's where are you placing that, the weight? Where are you placing that value? Is like, is it more valuable to you to stay in that group, or is it more valuable to you to become a better version of yourself? And the answer is generally the latter. And if that's true, then okay, the consequence is you're probably going to lose some people along the way. And yeah, it can feel like shit at first, but at the cost of, but keeping that at the cost of you being who you want to be is just, sucks ass.
Mm.
What's the point?
I think there's like when you start that journey and you're trying to change and you're maybe in a situation where it's difficult, there is a level of fear, and I think it takes strength to change and to know that you maybe aren't in the best place. It also takes other people and people where you want to go to kind of help you along the way. It's like you kind of handpick people that are going to help you get to where you want to go as well. So I think that's really important, that it's almost like you change your community, you change your inner circle, you start to align with people that you want to be either more like or are going to help you along the way to becoming that bigger, better person. But if you can get over that fear of taking that first step, and believe me, I've been there, anyone that's listening, and you, I don't know, maybe have a conversation or you change something like I stopped drinking alcohol, that's then going to start to propel you forward. And then if you start to, as I said, align with people along the way, then that's then little steps. And it is a big process, and I am still very much within it, but there's no time frame, there's no time limit on how long it's going to take you to become this bigger, better person. It's a learning curve every single day, every single week. And it is just one foot in front of the other. Make your goals small, incremental stages, and know that if you are keen to change, then it is possible. And overcoming the fear is probably the biggest step. But like you were saying, there was something you were saying earlier about how does it feel to stay in that same place? Well, it's not good for your mental health and it's not good for your physical health. So, if you want to get out of that and you want to make yourself feel better as a person overall, then I think you have to place one foot in front of the other and start.
Damn right. That's wise. Just, one little step at a time. It's
I think it's knowing and realizing. Realization is the first step. Actually realizing that something, or you're not aligning with what you want to be, or you feel stuck or whatever, it's actually realization. And people might be in the realization stage for a really long time. And then once they want to get out of that, that's when you'll start to get the ball rolling.
So how do you notice that you want to change something? Like, what are the cues you can pick up on? What did you pick up on?
Okay, so with my drinking, I just noticed that I didn't like myself when I was drinking. I've said it before in previous podcasts. I was in no way, shape or form an alcoholic, but I did drink regularly every Saturday night, pretty much. And I just didn't like the way I was. And I didn't like how I was the next day. And I didn't like my thinking around it. And I just felt very disappointed with myself. And I think anyone that's trying to make a change will probably tell you that it's just that you're just not aligning with how you think you should be as a person. I was this healthy Pilates teacher, and I just felt like I wasn't really aligning with the image that I was supposed to was giving off. I just felt very mismatched, and I just wasn't happy. That's what it was as well. I just felt very stuck within my life. And I had no idea how to change it. I had no concept of how do I get out of this? This is too big. I can't do it. I can't possibly do this. But then it just takes one person saying one thing. I read a book. One person said she read this book. I then read that book. And it's that momentary, it's almost like everything aligns and it just, that's the time to change. I wasn't planning on it. I had no idea it was going to happen. It just, bam, it just happened. And then after that, it started to snowball. And that's when loads of things started to change. So I can't remember what your question was, but I think it is just that there's just a sense of unease. Yeah, there's just a sense of unease and unrest, and you just don't feel happy within your life. If you were living your best life, there wouldn't be this mismatch, would there? Yeah, I'm great. Whereas for me, I was like, there was so much unrest, and then when I gave up alcohol, that unrest started to spiral, and I was like, okay, I need to look at everything, and that's how it started to change me, and I'm a lot better for it.
So that's interesting because you say it started to spiral. So essentially, that if it started to feel worse. And so,
It just giving up alcohol. Carry on. Sorry.
Is like things get worse before they get better, and you had to dig deep and just like kind of believe that it was going to get better.
And I think there are times where you think, how am I ever going to get out of my situation, or how am I ever going to do this? This isn't possible. But it is. There's always a way out. There's always a way through. And I think it is just, again, it's just, and I think it's also about asking for help as well, and maybe just asking the right people for help, if that's possible, if you are listening and you are at a stage in your life where you do. But actually uttering the words and asking for help was the next step. So feeling like you're unraveling and then going, all right, I need some help. And then people generally are really, really happy to help. And then that then starts to bring you more on that journey. And yeah, it does get better before it gets worse. But I think it's like anything, like you look at, it does get worse before it gets better. Sorry. I think you could look at it like that with anything. It's like if you look at back pain sometimes, or healing, or whatever it is that you're doing, it's like there are these moments of it's worse and then it's okay, and then it's like worse, even worse. And it's not linear. Healing in any way, shape or form, changing your life in any way, shape or form is not linear.
Yeah.
And you've got to go through it all. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's great. I think because what I wanted to build on that was my theory on that is of things getting worse before they get better is first when you take that you acknowledge that something's not great, and you're going to start taking steps to solve that. When you start to delve into it, you realize the actual scale of the problem, because you've scratched beneath the surface now.
Yes.
And then, so you scratch beneath the surface, oh fuck, there's so much shit here.
Like, whoa.
This is so bad. And then you're just going to delve into the shit.
Yeah.
But you have to come out on the other side clean of that shit. It's just like the Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne just crawling through 500 meters of shit so he could make it out the other side.
To freedom.
And to freedom, to be a free man. That's a beautiful metaphor for life. And that's exactly what it is. You got to look up, you got to look at your own shit, you got to face it, you got to do the work, and then you're going to come out of it like just a free person.
Sure.
And better off for it. And so, it's interesting it's kind of like, oh, why does it have to be that way? It's like, why is it that? So I've only just scratched the surface, now I start finding out, I'll fix this problem. This is a problem, I can fix it. Oh crap, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was. And it's invariably the case. There's a lot more going on every time. But hey, that's what it's about. Is like it's always deeper. It's always more complex than you ever hoped it would be. So, but that's just life, right? It's like everything is shaded with complexity. So you have to do the work.
You have to. If I could give anyone a takeaway, it's do the work. It's put in the time and do the work. Whatever it is that you're doing, it's like it's not going to be a quick fix. If you want a better life, you have to do the work. And there are going to be moments where you're in the eye of the storm, and there are going to be moments when you're not. But and it is a journey, but if you do the work and you consistently do the work, you're going to be so much better off for it. And what's really interesting for me right now is that you notice when people aren't doing the work, and it's almost enlightening. It's like you start to, it's almost like I'm Neo, or I'm starting to become Neo. It's like I'm beginning to believe.
You just look at everyone and you just go, just hand up like that.
No.
Yeah.
Certain people, no.
Yeah.
No, but you just start to understand people a lot more, and you understand when
So,
people
okay.
are doing the work and when they're not.
Yeah, so it's super fascinating that you said that, that you're able to pick up on the cues that somebody else isn't doing the work because of your personal experience with doing the work as well. And now you know like what the tenets of doing the work are. But what do you notice? Like, what do you see in people?
It's their language a lot of the time. It's how they portray themselves. It's how they relate to other people. Believe me, I'm a beginner in all of this, like doing the work and understanding much about myself. It's been a very long journey, but it's how you'll listen to conversations, or you'll listen to how they relay a story, or you'll just pick up on nuances that you might not have picked up on had I not started doing all this, given up alcohol, etc., etc., etc. It's just, I'm just noticing a lot more how people interact, the pauses in between, what they're not saying. It's fascinating. Like, it's all through language, and you pick up so much from what they're maybe from what they are trying to say but not saying as well. It's interesting.
You got examples, like what kind of things you might have heard?
Have I got examples that I could relay?
Well, because one of the things I think of is complaining. So it's
Yes.
like
Okay.
if
Yes.
there's a lot of complaining going on, like regularly, often, especially, then then there's a problem there. Something's going on where there's a twofold problem. You're not grateful for what you've actually got in front of you, number one, or within you, and then the second thing is like, okay, well, you're complaining because clearly there's something that's you've got to address, and you're not addressing it if you're constantly complaining. So that's one from my side.
Okay.
Well, over
Yeah.
to you. What's your one?
I could. So I suppose in terms of maybe when I'm teaching, it's how someone would maybe talk about themselves. I'm this, I'm that. I'm not good at this. That's a very generalised. Maybe that's quite a vanilla example, but it's how maybe people talk about themselves. Oh, I'm not very good at this, or oh, I've never stuck at anything. I'm sorry, I can't think of any examples that I'd like to share on here, but it's just it's almost like personality types and how people attach themselves to other people. And I think when you start to put in the work to yourself, you start to learn how people are and what they're like in terms of their relatability to other people as well. So it's very, very valuable to do it. As I say, I'm a real work in progress, but I feel like I'm learning a lot right now about myself and everyone else, I have to say.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the deeper you delve into yourself, the deeper you delve into humanity, really.
Yeah.
And the more understanding you get about it all. Yeah, I think like with the examples that you gave there with oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not very good at this, I'm not very good at that. Those are like belief systems about what one person is capable of, right? So
Yes.
you're already limiting yourself by believing that you're incapable of something. And when, again, the truth is, we were talking about earlier with learning, is like, it becomes harder to learn as an adult and to adapt as an adult, but you do, and you can. It's constantly there all the time. Your brain is actually it's adapting all the time. And so by that sheer fact itself, it gives you an understanding and hope as well that, okay, I can change and I can adapt as well.
Absolutely.
And so so that's like, just being limited by your own beliefs about yourself, and that's just not helping. It's not helping you to excel into the version of yourself that you want to be. And yeah, I think how could that be related to? I'm just wondering if that does relate to not doing the work. So yeah, I suppose so,
Yeah,
in
it
the
is
sense
related to
that,
not doing the work.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
because you
you're
don't
not
believe that.
investigating. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not investigating. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You're not investigating whether actually something can work for you. You're
And
not
where did that belief
believing
come
in your own.
from? Do you know
Yeah,
what I
you're
mean?
not.
It's like,
Yeah,
where's that come from?
yeah. That's the first place to. That's
How
the
have you
first place to
derived at
investigate, isn't it?
that? Because that's not necessarily true. So you have to kind of track back all through your history to understand where that belief has initially come from. Often it can come from childhood, and then you have to kind of work towards undoing a lot of those negative limiting beliefs. But what I really like about when people do come into, say, my studio, and they are maybe a little bit negative, it's like, this is a safe space for you to learn and understand and know that you can change and that your body is capable of all these things. So I really like to, I hopefully provide a safe space where people can learn. And I think that's, if someone's comfortable and they feel safe in a space, then that's when there's that opportunity to explore again. And it's not necessarily that I look at their limiting beliefs, but I'm like, look, you can do it. Look at what you just did. And then once they go, oh yeah, I can do it, then that gives you more opportunity to explore more movement. So I
Yes.
think, I'm sure you do the same. People feel comfortable and safe when they have sessions with you, and that's when you can have that two-way open relationship conversation.
Yeah. No, I have to make it clear as well, especially as a guy with some female clients, and then
Sure.
they're not up to task for a particular session, and then so I'll be like, look, what's going on? Like, they won't say it, and I'm like, you can tell me if you're in the middle of your menstrual cycle or something. It's fine.
Okay.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's what's going on. It's like, I didn't feel comfortable saying. It's like, whatever. It's like, it's all stuff that influences the work that we do. So be open and honest about it. Don't worry about hiding anything, or
Yeah.
like, hide it if you want to, but if it's not helpful, then don't. It's like, if it helps me to understand how to get the best out of you, then, which pretty much is a lot of stuff, is like, if you tell me
Sure.
that, then I'll know, and I'll know what to do, because especially in that instance as well, is like, it's so varied how women respond to the menstrual cycle. It's like, some are just
Sure.
like, I'm bedridden and in pain for a few days,
Yeah.
and others are like, you barely notice a change in their mood. So it's like, where are you on that scale? Can I continue to well, if we're in a phase of the training where I'm like, I need to push you a little bit, can I continue to push you by knowing that information? And if you're and so that becomes, it becomes important. It becomes important information. And so it's like, make it have to be clear about that. This is a safe space. It's like, don't
And that's
feel like you
good,
have to hide that info.
because if people don't feel comfortable, they're not going to share that. And that'll be from experience as well, and previous interactions with men where they're like, ugh, or it just doesn't feel like the right thing to do. So the fact that you have that open conversation will make a female feel more comfortable and confident and able to say, and then the training then becomes better. It's almost like reframing that thought process of like, oh, I can't possibly tell a guy that I'm on, because
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Because in the past that hasn't boded well or whatever. So
Yeah, it's just, it's crazy how it's just like this. It's like the natural bodily function. It's just been like, no, don't want to know about it. Get away from me.
yeah, but
I'm
a
not
lot of men
asking.
are like that though, aren't they? Don't talk to me about that. That's far too much information right there. And it's like, yeah, but actually in our world it's kind of important. So
Yeah.
good for you. Well done for having that conversation, because a lot of women don't go to male trainers for that reason, and for because they're just not going to get it. So
Yeah, I never actually. I mean, that never thought of that specifically being a reason why women wouldn't go to a male
million
trainer.
reasons, but it's
Yeah.
all based around that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
that they might not understand, or it might not be something that you could be comfortably discuss with a male trainer, or say you're having a bad day, or it's just all a bit too much. You could, oh sorry, it's not in their remit sometimes. So the fact that
Yeah.
you know more about it is very helpful.
Yeah, well, it's just, and even if I don't, and ultimately, I'm never going to understand what it's like
No.
to be in a female body, right? Or like that, what actually happens and what it feels like is like,
Mm.
try and understand as best as I can intellectually and like empathize as best as I can, but I'm never going to know. It's
No. And
so
vice
it's just like, all
versa,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah, and so all I can do is like, yeah, I based on the information and based on the up to date like science on how best to deal with this kind of stuff, I can advise on that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be able to tell you how you should be feeling in your body or anything like that, or like
No. Everyone's
whatever.
different
But
anyway.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, even on that level as well, it's just even less so-called private things as well. So,
Mm.
well, you know, the client might not be necessarily making a change for a while, and you're just like, what's going on? Like, you know, it's you have to. In it's like some stresses that occur in life are
Hmm.
playing up, and they're just not being open about that kind of thing. And then so it's kind of like, okay, well, look, we're doing all this good work, and from my side, I see that there should be some level of improvement. Like, why hasn't it been? What's going on? And this isn't an opportunity to. This isn't about like berating, punishing as like, you should have done this, should have done that. It never is.
No.
This is like, okay, well, we've got to make sure that this is working for you. So how are we best going to do that? And if I don't have the information to go on, then I'm not going to be able to help you out as like you need, and you're not going to get the result that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be honest about it, just be open about it, and then yeah, we work together to get you to the outcome.
Good. And if they can and they're comfortable, then that's awesome. And that's
Mm,
hopefully what I provide here as well, that people are comfortable enough to explain. And they generally are. And I love it. It's like suddenly you get this outpour of information. It's like, oh, there it is. Wicked. We've got it.
yeah,
And it takes a couple of sessions, but generally it's like,
mm,
that's what it is. And
yeah,
yeah, good.
exactly. Makes a difference. All right,
Yeah.
let's leave it there.
All right.
Good chatting to you today, Juju.
You too.
And
G-banger.
for G Banger, for everybody listening, thank you for tuning in again. And yeah, let us know what you're thinking of the podcast. Get in touch with us over Instagram at Evolve Achieve Thrive, and shoot us your thoughts. And if you're enjoying the conversation as well, drop a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player if they have that as a setting, and then subscribe to the show as well. Don't miss a beat. So find us on your favorite podcast player, wherever that may be, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, you name it, we're there. So we shall catch you next time.
Bye.